Hi there, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and today I'm talking about assistant principal pool writing tasks. These are the tasks that you have to do sometimes when you're trying to become an assistant principal. They will often give you a writing prompt or something like that during the interview process, and you have to look at a set of data, make a decision, and kind of put it all down on paper and explain your methodology and why you're doing it. So today we're going to talk about this, but this will be helpful for anyone who's working on any essay task, because essentially we're going to be looking at a writing prompt and then writing a very comprehensive essay. Let's get started. A lot of people who are trying to become assistant principals or principals usually have to go through a very rigorous interview process, much more rigorous than you would if you were a teacher. And in many states and many districts, these people will be required to write at length about student data, school data, district data, something like that. It is a performance task that is given to you during the interview process, or what we call the AP pool process, which means you have to kind of pass these little mini tests to go into the pool of people who then might be selected by a principal to be hired. So many of you are entering into your assistant principal pool or your principal pool, and you may have a writing task like this to complete in order to be accepted into that pool of people. And then you can actually interview with a principal for a particular school. So this is usually done district level. You're going into a pool of a group of people who have passed this particular performance task, and then you are able to interview with a principal. So it's very rigorous, very anxiety inducing. And today I hope to show you how to attack these writing prompts so that you will be more prepared if you are asked to do this task. So typically you will be given a pretty lengthy writing prompt and a set of data that you are to look at and then explain what you would do to fix a problem or what's going on or something like that. So let's take a look at what I have here for you today. You are the new assistant principal at ABC Middle School. Your principal has given you the following data. And we're going to show you the data in a second. And it says, summarize the data, identify areas of need, come up with solutions to address areas of need, support your approach in a memo to the principal and to other stakeholders. So right away, you should be zeroing in on these bullets. This is your task. You need to summarize the data, a quick overview of what's going on, what you see. You're going to zero in on an area of need. You're going to find something where the data dips or there's struggle or something going on. Then you're going to figure out a solution or some sort of next steps. It does not mean you solve all the problems in education. You are just talking about this one little area and where you might be able to help. And then you're going to construct this into a kind of comprehensible, memo or some sort of document. All right. You're just going to write to it. Now, here's something you need to consider right away. You are entry level, and I say this to all of my aspiring assistant principals. You are not the superintendent of every school across America. You do not have to solve every single problem in education. You just have to find one small area in the data where you can find a place where you can help and come up with some ideas and put that down on paper. If you start going too far, if you start trying to solve 100 problems, your essay is going to become very jumbled. It's going to become very incoherent, unorganized, and it's just going to be not good. So I highly recommend that you find one thing, unless the prompt asks you for 3 things or 2 things. In this case, it says identify areas of need. It's not specific. So we're going to kind of summarize a few areas of need, and then I'm going to zero in on one thing. Now, if it says identify 2 areas or 3 areas, obviously then I want to be, more specific to 2 or 3. But in this case, there is no number. So I recommend zeroing in on one thing and really doing that one thing justice. And remember, your entry level, this is not a dissertation. This is probably a timed task. So you need to be succinct, organized, and do what the task tells you to do, and then get out and move on with your life. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at the data. Now, this is data that I pulled off of our State Department website. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to do that so you can practice with all kinds of different data sets. All I did was go into my State Department website, the Education Department website. I found some data and I just summarized it and put it on this slide like this. You don't have to do this, obviously, because you are just looking over the data. But I highly recommend you go on the state's website, you take a look at all the different data for all the different schools and all the different districts, and you start to look at it and start to tell a story based on the data. Remember, data will tell you a story, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to summarize the story of what's going on. All right, so we know we're a middle school based on the prompt. And we know middle schools in my area are 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I think that's the way it is in most areas. And on this piece of data, I have it broken down in a table and I have it broken down in a graph. It depends on the prompt. You might get it both in a table and a graph. You might just get it in a table. You might just get it in a graph. So practice looking at it in both ways. Okay, so let's take a look at the table here first. Now, this chart here and this graph here represents the percentage of students reading at a level 3 or above. So this is going to be greater than or equal to a level 3, which equals proficiency. That means they're on grade level. So let me just take a look at the table here. You can see that 42.9% in the year 2014-2015 were reading at a level 3 or higher. And for my state, a level 3 means that they are on grade level, they are proficient, all right? Now, you may have it, explained a different way in your state. It might be that they meet expectations. Sometimes that's what it's called in other states. In this state, in the state I am in, they call it level 3 or higher or proficient. That means they're on grade level, all right? Anything below a level 3 is not proficient, and those students will need interventions. So keeping that in mind, let's take a look at this table. So we can see that 6th grade, in the beginning, we're starting here at 2014, 2015, we're at 42.9. By 2021 here, we're at 28.1, a significant drop. Now we can see that we gradually increased in these years, and we even got up as high as 52.8%, which is great. That's more than 50% were proficient in reading in ELA. This is a English language arts exam. However, we started to decline, and then this huge drop right here is very concerning. That's a 50% drop from 2016 to 2021. So that is significant. So I want to keep that in mind as I'm working through this, all right? Let's take a look at 7th grade here. Again, this is reading at a level 3 or higher, meaning proficient. So only 38.7% in 2014. We're down to 35.1% in 2021. Not a huge drop. We do see that we went up right around here was our peak. So these years right here, 2016 to 2018 were like our good years here, our peak years. And it looks like then we dropped again. Now, of course, we have a pandemic going on here in 2020, 2021, of course, so there's going to be a drop. But that 6th grade drop is really low. It's more significant than any other, so it's kind of an outlier. We have that. We still want to keep that in mind. So right now I'm thinking 6th grade is going to be my focus. But let's take a look at 8th grade. 8th grade, we started pretty good, 55%, about 56% in 2014 were level 3 or higher, meaning they were on grade level. Most of the school, more than half, was on grade level. Dropped significantly here in 2015, 2016, bumped up and stayed up even during the pandemic. That's interesting. So 8th grade did something to keep those students going. Now notice we are missing a year right here. We're missing 2019 to 2020, and that is because in my state, they did not do standardized testing that year because of the pandemic. They weren't in school. Schools were shut down in March, April, and May, so there was no test. So that might be something you want to discuss. You might just want to bring it up in your writing, or not, whatever. But this drop, I mean, let's take a look at it in a visual here. So we've got 6th grade here, 6th grade, 6th grade, Sixth grade, it's going pretty normal, and then boom, big time drop there. So right away, because this is a time task, I'm going with sixth grade. I want to know what's going on. Now let's think about this really quickly about sixth grade. What are some of these causes that could make this happen? Obviously, the pandemic is one, but because the other grades did not suffer as badly, something's going on. So right away, I'm going to want to think about maybe the feeder schools. Did something happen in fifth grade the year before? Is something going on with my feeder school? So feeder schools are the schools that feed into your school. So if you're a middle school, you have an elementary school that's pushing students your way. You're the middle school and you're pushing students on to the high school. So that's what a feeder school is. So right away I'm thinking, maybe I should talk to the assistant principal of our feeder school and see if there were any kind of major changes. Was there a mobility situation? Did a lot of students leave? Was there a catastrophic event of some kind? I don't know. Now, it's okay that I don't know, because remember, you're an entry level assistant principal. So part of your job in this writing is to identify what you don't know and how you're going to go and find it. All right. So let's take a look at the way I would write to this particular data set. Remember, we're looking at level 3 or above. So that means proficiency on the English Language Arts exam. So that's a reading test. And we're zeroing in on the 6th grade readers of 2020, 2021. And we want to know, why did they drop so low, and what we are going to do to figure it out, and what we are going to do to try to fix it. That's the thing. Because remember, let's go back to our task. Summarize the data. Identify the areas of need. We already have that in our head. 6th grade, 2020, 2021. Come up with solutions, and then we're going to put that in a nice memo for whomever we're talking to. All right. So now we're going to take a look at my writing, and I'm going to just summarize this for you pretty quickly. I'm not going to read this to you out loud, but I jump right into the task. What was the first bullet? The first bullet was to summarize the data, and that makes for a great intro paragraph if you're trying to stay organized and you're trying to do, the 3-paragraph or 4-paragraph essay. So on most of these, it will ask you to summarize the data. So I go in there and I basically say, according to the data, less than half of the school is proficient in reading this past year. I talk about how 6th grade students went from 58% to a drop to just 28%. So in 2016, 2017, they were way above the 50% mark. Now they're significantly below the 50% mark. And then it says, according to the data, 30% of the overall school population, they're at a level 1 as measured by the state reading. So I kind of went in and disaggregated the data and looked at and all of that. So basically, I just went into a general summary of the data. I just looked at this and I kind of went 6th grade, 7th grade, blah, 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 8th grade. I focused a lot on this column here and kind of what happened in the trends. We were kind of sitting steady here, and then all of a sudden, boom, this drop happened, okay? That's what I'm kind of asserting in my first paragraph. Just a quick few sentences of what's going on with the data. It's not 18 pages long, okay? I could write so much more about it. All I need is a paragraph. Remember that, please. Keep it short and sweet. There's somebody on the other end reading this, and you do not want to bore them or make them feel like you're long-winded, okay? And I know that a lot of people for this exam, you're overachievers and you want to show that you really know what's going on, but I'm telling you, brevity is your friend here. So keep it brief, keep it succinct to what you want to talk about, and just talk about that, all right? Now, let's talk about 6th grade here, all right? Because of the dramatic decrease in proficiency in 6th grade, administration must focus on supporting teachers and students in that area. That's just an overall, introductory sentence to this paragraph. Now, here we go. The first step would be to meet with the feeder school's administration to determine if there was a significant event. And here I list them. Remember, specificity is very important. Increased mobility rate, low enrollment, etc., that may be contributing to this decline. So you may want to just get specific here. Mobility rate, low enrollment, maybe a new school opened up down the road and there's what we call a brain drain. A lot of times a new school will open and all the high performing kids will leave and go to this new school. And then what's left are the low performing students. And because the high performing students are not there to kind of push the low performers along, because it does benefit for both students to be working together, sometimes you'll see a dip. All of these things could be a possibility, but I know a lot about mobility rate and enrollment. Those are things I'm comfortable talking about. So I threw those in here. And then I do mention the pandemic. The pandemic is one possibility. However, none of the other grade levels decreased so dramatically. So again, I get specific and talk about the other grade levels briefly just to support my concern. We will need to evaluate more data from the feeder school, such as, and I get into specifics, benchmark data, iReady, and STAR assessment data. So we can disaggregate, good word, the data to determine more information about the decline. Now let's break that down a little bit here. I got specific and I talked about iReady and the STAR assessment. Those are the assessments we use here in my state. You may have a different assessment. Choose those, whatever it is. But I want to get that information from the middle school assistant principal. I want to see what's going on the year before. All right. And then I'm going to disaggregate the data. Good word here. Remember, from all of my leadership webinars and videos, we want to dig down deeper. This right here, if we take a look at this data here, this is a snapshot, but this doesn't tell me what they're low in, which students. We didn't even disaggregate based on subgroup here. We just know that the 6th grade did get lower. Now, you might get more data, something like this, where you get disaggregated data, and I'm going to use this in another presentation, but you can see that we have economically disadvantaged students versus non-economically disadvantaged students. These are subgroups, right? So now we're digging down into the data. But for me, with this decline here, I would want to see in this area here where this 28% is, I would want to know, are they low in comprehension? Are they low in vocabulary? Are they low in word recognition? Whatever areas are tested on the assessment. So that's very, very important here to disaggregate that data. So let's go back to here. So you're going to want to use those words, disaggregate the data, and be very specific. Now let's get to the third paragraph here. In addition to further data analysis, we will need to evaluate the 6th grade instructional team. Something happened on that team. Was it all new teachers? Did a bunch of teachers retire? You may even want to make up that scenario for this. We had 3 teachers retire, or you could say we had 3 teachers retire because of the pandemic. And you can make up that scenario. That is a real scenario happening all over. And though that grade level was taught largely by substitute teachers. Well, that'll definitely impact your scores, right? So there could be all kinds of stories going on for that situation. I chose to be a little bit more general so that I could focus on PLCs and things like that. So I said, we'll need to focus on the 6th grade instructional team and determine their professional development needs. Now I'm focusing on the teachers. Right? The first detail paragraph, which is right here, I'm focusing on the students. What's going on with the students? What happened in 5th grade? What happened in 6th grade? Now I'm zeroing in on the teachers here, and I need to figure out what their professional development needs are. We can set up an initial data chat to go over the data collected from the feeder schools. So immediately, we need to have a meeting with the 6th grade people. We need to sit down and evaluate this data, which I'm sure they've seen if they're looking at their data. And the second thing we need to do is share the feeder schools data, because that might help us for this coming school year coming up. We're always sharing data with teachers and talking with teachers about the data and trying to figure out what happened, all right? And then we say, in addition, PLCs should be focused on action research, more good words that we talk about in our leadership, using state test specification test items to prepare students by building their skills based on subtests. This will most likely take extensive training and money, and time will be needed, just wrapping it up there. Now, last paragraph here. Good word, progress monitoring, which is something we should all be doing no matter what the situation is. Progress monitoring will be essential in making this approach successful. Teachers should be given time to plan, analyze formative data, design instructional approaches, and make decisions accordingly. Teachers will need support from us, the administration team. In addition, many sixth grade teachers are brand new because of the turnover from the pandemic. Therefore, we will need to invest in training, evaluation, meetings, and more for these new educators. Boom, 4 paragraphs. I got it done fairly quickly. Obviously, I had it typed up before I did this presentation, but you could easily map that out for yourself during one of these tasks for your AP pool or for your constructed response. This could be a constructed response on the SLLA 6990, or it could be a constructed response on the SSA 6991, which is the superintendent test. It may not be school data, it may be district data, but the same thing applies, right? We got to zero in on the issue. We got to disaggregate, dig down. That might be talking to other leaders from the feeder schools or in the area. That may be disaggregating down based on subgroup. But we're trying to figure out where the problem is. We don't know where the problem is yet, but we're trying to find it. And then we come up with more solutions for staff development, professional development, and then of course, progress monitoring and making tweaks along the way. So this would be a solid essay for this. It did not take me long to do it based on the data, and here's why. I'm constantly evaluating data. And here's one more thing you can do to help yourself with this task. Go to your state Department of Education website and pull up some data. So this is New Jersey. I just pulled up New Jersey. They have it everywhere. The data is public. This is part of No Child Left Behind. The standards-based assessment data is available to the public so that we can hold our schools accountable. And so you can see here that this is school performance reports. You click there and it will allow you to choose by district, by schools. You can see here are all the districts. This one's kind of good. I like this one. Let's just say we're going with schools and I'm just going to go with this first school and I'm going with a detailed report here. Notice we have demographics. You can dig down into demographics, trends by grade. And then we have this academic achievement, which is probably what you're going to be asked on your exams or on your writing tasks. And you can click here and notice that you'll get this performance data here. Take a look, start thinking about it. What's going on? Did we go up? Did we go down? This doesn't give us too much in terms of 2021. It doesn't look like it's completely up to date, but you can still look at old data and practice, right? With the Florida Department of Education, there's always brand new data here. You've got your mathematics, 2019. This is 2019 to 2021 report. You can see this is kind of little or small here, but you can see based on district here. So you could do a district analysis. You can dig down by school and just get into those performance reports and the data reports so that you can start to just practice, look at the data and say, what's going on here? Okay, school A's got this happening. School B's got this happening. 6th grade's got a little bit of low going on here. I wonder if it's because of this. And just start thinking and talking about what is happening with the data. All of that is public on your state website. Once you dig around, you can find different subgroups, different things like that you can then talk about closing the achievement gap. I mean, there are different kinds of data reports all over the place, and just get in there and see if you can read them. They're confusing. When you first look at this, you're like, oh God, I don't want to look at that. But once you get in there and you're like, oh, I see what's going on here. Okay, just read the heading. See what's going on. This one is about graduation rate. You might get a question about graduation rate, and then get in and take a look and see if you can tell a story, and then just kind of jot some things down, organize an essay. And the more you do this, the more prepared you will be during that AP pool task or during the SLLA constructed response or whatever. You'll be able to do this on the fly, no problem, because you will have that kind of data analysis mind and you'll be able to attack any prompt you are given. All right, so I hope that helps you today with your writing task for the AP pool, the SLLA 6990 or the SSA 6991. Remember, it's all about evaluating data, making decisions based on that data, and then backing up your your decisions based on that data. That's what they're going to be looking for. There is no real right or wrong answer. You just have to be able to defend your decisions based on the data given. And remember, if this is for your assistant principal pool, you are entry level. You are not solving all of the problems of education. You're just trying to zero in on one thing that you can be of service in. And that's what you should be focusing on the most. Thank you so much for watching today. Please give this video a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and letting your colleagues know we're here. We really appreciate it, and have a good day. Thank you so much for watching. We have a ton of videos on my YouTube channel. Please consider subscribing and following me on my social media networks at Kathleen Jasper. Have a great day.